Southwest Florida real estate just crossed a line that we have never seen before. And if you're a buyer or a seller, what I'm about to show you could save you tens of thousands of dollars. I'm Ed Zoller with Villa Realty Group. I've been a full-time Southwest Florida real estate agent for over 25 years, and I do the graphs, the data analytics, and the math so you don't have to. Today, I'm doing this update in reverse because too many of you were missing the most important advice because I had it at the end of the presentation. So right up front, here's exactly what buyers and sellers need to do right now, and then we're going to get to the juicy update. Let me move on to the first one. Advice for sellers out there. All right, if you're a seller, I've been talking for months now about that fake COVID equity, and people are like, what is that? Well, I'm going to show you. I took last month and the month before that, I took different communities and I looked at before COVID, which was 2020, beginning of 2020, and I went all the way to current to show you what the exact same units did and how much they went up to show you what the COVID boom really did. So this place is called Marbella on Cypress. It's a townhome community that Lennar built, and these were all brand new places for sale. And look what happened. 2020, you could have bought these places for 200 grand. Made sense. 200 grand. It was affordable. People could get it. A brand new 1,900 square foot townhome. Perfect. Well, look what happened. 1 year later, it went up 32%. Does real estate go up 32%? No. And then what happened in the next year? It went up another 21%. That's almost like 8 times more than it normally did. And then it did it again in 2023, up another 13% to $368,000. So if you bought a place and stayed in it for 3 years, you made $168,000, almost doubling your money in a short period of time. See where the bubble happened? And then what happened in 2024? It went down 6%. And then in 2025, it dropped 29%. And just 4 months later, look at these dates, it went down another 5% in 4 months. This is the rapid loss of the COVID equity that you never earned. You just happened to buy at the right time, and now it's all crumbling down. Now, the person who bought that place in 2020 for 202, they still have what looks like 25 grand worth of equity. But is it? Because when they bought it was brand new. Is it brand new now? No, it's 6 years old. It's got wear and tear on it. Do used homes go for more than the new home equivalent? Well, I'm going to show you some of these examples right here. But moving on to keeping on with the advice for sellers. Real estate appreciates normally, and this was obviously a bubble. But is it over? No, because there is plenty of fake COVID equity that you never earned left. So if you're thinking of selling, in the next years, you may want to consider selling now so that you can still extract on this before we actually keep going through our correction. But to set yourself apart, you are competing against new construction. So what I advise most sellers to do, get a pre-inspection report on their home. Buyers don't want to do anything. It's a buyer's market, and they want a place that they can just move into and not have to spend a lot of money. So giving things that the builders are doing, concessions, buy down the interest rate. But when you do these pre-inspections, it tells a buyer right up front when you're marketing it that I am different and you can move right in, and I am move-in certified. And as long as you market your home differently than the competition, you should still do fine. I'm still selling my listings out there, even if they're used. Rookie agents, I think the National Association of Realtors said that a majority of agents have less than 5 years experience. Do you think that they can set your home apart from the horde? I don't think so. Advice for buyers, patience, 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 patience. It's a market of falling daggers. You want to catch feathers. I know I'm just a skipped record with this, but you're going to see in the next slide how patience paid off for my client John just this month in February. What you want to do is you want to pick your payment. You're going to wait for him to come to you, and you just don't get afraid to offer sellers. Sellers want to sell their home. To do that, they need a contract, and if they're not seeing any contracts, then it's not going to sell. And so giving them something is better than giving them nothing. There is 12,000 homes. That's a huge pile of inventory to choose from. So I have a very good method for buyers to buy homes. It works out for almost every one of them, but I always start with the big word, patience. So let's talk about this month's deal. This month's deal is a brand new construction Delray. I got a client named John. We've been looking for homes for a few months. He wanted something nicer. He wanted something bigger. He didn't want the average home. He wanted it affordable, but he was talking about a 4-bedroom, 2 full bath. But we saw this one home, and I probably should have showed it to him because it was outside of his realm, but he wanted to see it. And I'm like, this thing is 9-foot 4-inch ceilings, 8-foot doors, 5-inch baseboards, impact glass, granite stainless. It's got everything. It's on the water. It's in a gated community. It's got city water, sewer. But the price of it, look at that, $447,680. You would expect that from the most luxurious and gorgeous home that you can find. It was about $5,000 off. Builder was offering $12,500 incentives. Hey, thanks. That's nice. $12,000's good, but it doesn't cover all the closing costs. And they were offering a special interest rate of 4.99%. But these homes, because they're fancy, they actually don't give you a washer and dryer. They don't give you blinds. They don't even screen in the lanai for you. Most builders don't. So what can we do? He wanted this house. And so negotiation, we were not afraid. We went to the seller, and at the end of all the negotiations, about 3 rounds of it, we end up getting them to take $47,600 off the price, up the concessions from 12 to 24. And I wanted all the appliances included, including washer, dryer. I wanted the blinds and the screened-in lanai as well. To John, that would have cost him $5,000 out of pocket the minute he bought the home, but not on us because we had the builder pay for it. And then he got an interest rate of 4.5%, which costs an additional $8,000 to buy down from 499. So total incentives, $83,000. He decided to go with a 10% down loan, so only $40,000 out of pocket since all the closing costs were covered, and he got the monthly payment he wanted. He got a much nicer home than any other home we were looking at, and that's because we weren't afraid to negotiate with these builders. So Ed, people ask me, so new construction's cheaper than used? When have you ever heard that before? When has new construction ever been cheaper than used? Is anything that's new in the used version being more expensive? Well, it just happened, and it's never happened before. This is from the National Association of Realtors and the Census Bureau, and it looked at the median sale price of used homes, which is the black line, and the median sale price of the red. Now, a couple times they touch. When did they touch? 2005. What happened in 2005? That was the peak of the market, and it bubbled. And what happened? The used market crumbled. The gap got much bigger than 12%. It got huge, and then it kind of got back up. And look when it touched again, right after COVID. So let's just think about this. The things that make you go, is going to be the pattern of this thing. When they touch, the used market crashes. They touch, but the used market exceeded the new market. So this is a pattern that is not looking really promising for the future of real estate in Southwest Florida, especially when these builders are giving $100,000 worth of incentives. So I thought that was very, very interesting that we have a pattern forming here, and you can see all these little peaks and valleys, obviously nationwide. This is nationwide. This isn't just Florida. People are like, oh yeah, I'm here in Southwest Florida. It's horrible. This is nationwide. So let's talk about Southwest Florida. We got our inventory right now, and as I've always discussed in every single slide, the market goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, and every peak is the same month. It's March. And when was this peak? March. Now this slop here, that was COVID. That's when we had no inventory, prices soared, and buyers got freaky, right? FOMO buying started happening, and then it started getting its little shark fins all over again. This is a really big one here. We did go down and bottomed at 10,000, which would be the lowest bottom that we've ever had, dating all the way back prior to 2015. And then we did go up. Now we didn't go up 1%. We went up less than 1%, but we still peaked that 12,000 mark. So that's 5 consecutive increases, and if you just follow the graph along, do we expect this to continue to go higher? Yes, it's going to peak as it's done in every year except for the COVID slop in March, 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 and guess what? March. Now that March, it's actually going to be lower. So that'll be a decent break of the trend. This might be something to look into a little bit. We have to see what March has in store, but do expect inventory to go up in March. Of this inventory, 2219 of the existing inventories are new construction, and that is the same price off by one home than it was last month. So all these builders and these incentives and that home I just got for John, that didn't count. They still built just as many homes as they sold, but at least they didn't gain inventory. Well, they gained one, but still way too many homes. The demand is very, very troublesome, because if you look at the trend here, now I was noticing a little trend that was forming. You can see here all these peaks of demand is in March, and all these valleys are in January. And what happens? It bottoms in January, it peaks up really fast to March, and then it messes around, hits a low in January, peaks back up to March, messes around, goes down to a low, high, low, high. But this was the first time in 2025 that it didn't go below this middle line I just drew, an imaginary line that I drew, and it looked like it was showing a little bit of support, and it did go up 15%. The problem is January went down 15%. So it's the same sales as in December, our slowest month of the year, one of the slowest months of the year. And what I found was not only was January of 2025 the lowest sales of January, which is our lowest sales in 40 years, but this is the lowest February sales that we've had in 40 years, which breaks that trend where we were doing every month, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, all those months were the worst months in 40 years, and then we broke that trend for 2 months, and now we're back to being the worst again with 885 sales. Now, as when I'm writing this, look at what happened to interest rates. And the interest rates went from 6% to, wait for it, 5.99. We just crossed the 6% threshold. So we should be able to see lower interest rates from these builders and these incentives. It'll cost less to buy it down. And so this is something that I see in the future of the spring, summer, and fall for Southwest Florida. 885 sales, 254 of them new construction. That is up. Builders gained more share, but we had very, very low sales. So where did all the buyers go? Why do you think we have low sales? And I had a couple graphs to go over with this. I thought this was interesting. I did this graph maybe a year ago, and I talked about Florida's net domestic migration. And it does take the Census Bureau a little bit of time to show us how many people we gained. Well, we gained 20,000 people, a little over 20,000 people for Florida. And people are like, Ed, that's great. That means we're not losing people because we lost people back in the crash. But I want you to look at something here. From the 2005 peak, where we're gaining over 250,000 people in the state of Florida, it took 4 months to go into the negatives. Actually, it took 3 months to get into the negatives. And it dropped 115% over 4 years. Look at this. We're only 1, 2, 3 years into it, not 4. And we dropped 90%. We are down 90%. As a matter of fact, if I go from here to here on 2005, they dropped 90% of population. The buyers are disappearing. The main reason buyers are leaving is because they can't afford it. If you can't afford your area, you move. And I just thought, even though we're net gain 20,000, and I saw an article in the news talking about, hey, Florida's the funnel, and everyone's moving down, and these snowstorms, and everyone's going to want to go down to sunny Southwest Florida. We only net gained 20,000 people. That is, other than the crash, that is the lowest that we've seen since 2007. So think of that. Maybe that's why we have such low buyer demand. And then this is a great graph I saw. It took the pending home sales, the mortgage applications, the internet searches for homes, and the buyer sentiment out there, and it all put it on one big, huge graph. And I wanted you to look at something here. The housing demand falls to near lowest levels on record in this month of February, and this is nationwide. Look at where we are right now. You would have to go back, even the last crash of 2008, 2011. The pending home sales, the mortgage applications ranked a 30 out of 100. Look at when it hit 90s up in the boom, and look at where it hit 76 here in the pandemic peak. And now we're at 6 out of 100 overall demand index. So I thought it was kind of funny that other than 2005, the second worst buyer demand we've ever had, 80% worse than the 2008 crash, and a decrease from the pandemic highs of 92%. And didn't we just see 92% somewhere? maybe that's why there's no buyers. That's what it is. It's not a sentiment thing. They're leaving. They can't afford it. And we get to the affordability graph with this now. So why can't they afford it? Because our prices are too high. When you take in all the way back to '05, what it costs somebody to own a home here in Southwest Florida, and if you take the average home with the average size and the average location, and you take the average household income, and you do a ratio to it, and you do the math, you can see that most of the people in this green affordable line, if you are below 27% of your gross income, you can afford that mortgage, as they have all the way from the crash, and even dipped under that box, the target zone that I'm looking for. And you can see in the last boom, over 55% of someone's gross income going to a mortgage isn't sustainable. It's not affordable. And what happened? It crashed. Look what COVID did. The devil horns here. It went beyond 50% of someone's gross income. And so I at least we're getting closer. We're still in the not affordable range, because anytime it's hit red, it's always reversed back very quickly down to the green. And then it stays in the green. And if it goes up into the not affordable, it briefly does it. It goes right back down to the green again, and then back into the red, rinse and repeat. This is all very predictable if you just follow real estate trends. So now it's down to that 30.03, which is great, but still 30% of your gross income going to a mortgage, still not affordable. We're getting there. We really need to hit this target zone of 20 to 22%. Are we in a buyer's or seller's market? Duh. If there's no buyers, of course we're in a buyer's market. But hey, at least we're not in crazy, wicked, super stupid buyer's market. We're just in the super stupid one. So I try to put a name to it, because really it's always been buyers, sellers, moderate, extreme. Very rarely have we ever been over 10 months of inventory. And even going back to 18 and going all the way back to the last crash, we never really had that much inventory except the 08, 09 where we had all those foreclosures. But hey, lo and behold, 2024, we broke that 12-month mark, and we had to come up with these stupid sayings I had to come up with. But it makes sense, right? There's no buyers. We're having a 90% drop in migration, and buyers' sentiment is at an all-time low. So no wonder there's no buyers. The median home price is that stubborn thing that I keep talking about. It goes up 10 grand, it goes down 10 grand, but something about having only 885 sales or so is quite a few of them were $1 million homes. 87 of them, and one's actually sold for $5.75 million. So it does skew this graph. But if you start a graph in 2000, you don't change it just because it doesn't fit your... I'm just going to keep it going. You're looking for patterns, and as you can see here, this was a bubble. We know that was a bubble, and what did it do? It overshot it, it popped, it went down underneath this orange line, and this orange line here takes average household income, takes the average home, and it says what the house price of the average home should be. But right now, we are way above that, and this is a very... Look how... one thing that's concerning me is look how fast and easy it went up and how fast and slow it went back down. Very methodical. It got back on the train track in 2016, and it just stayed where it should have been. And then look at how big and elongated this bubble is. That's not a bubble. It's being just stubborn. And so hurry up already. I was writing these things back in 2010, and I'm like, thank God, one thing, our crash was fast. It took 4 years. It took us a while to stabilize, but this is just kind of prolonging itself way too much there. The prices should be $266. They're $355. Got another 90 grand to go. Remember I talked about these builders, right? So obviously this is the first time we've ever seen new construction nationwide be cheaper than used homes. And why? Well, look at just in the South area. I've showed this graph before. Even going back to the 2005 peak, builders had way too many homes. One of the main reasons we crashed, builders built too many homes. There was too many out there. And now we haven't even gone below that old peak. We still broke records a couple months ago as far as builders having over 300,000. Now we got 293,000. 291 was the old record. So builders have all this inventory, and they're now cheaper. They have to do 100 grand off their homes or 80 grand in incentives to buy the home. So I dove in deeper into this, and I use the home values, Zillow Home Value Index graph to just show you how much your house lost or how much it gained on a month-by-month basis. But I'm looking at trends here. If I took this line from the peak of 05 and I've measured it until we actually stabilized, wasn't when it hit this line, it's when it stabilized and bounced off of it. It took 7 years from peak to stable. People are asking me, how long is this going to go on for? Well, let's have math and graphs tell us this. And although it is going closer and closer to zero, it did that before. It actually hit it and then bounced off and ricocheted and hit it again and bounced back down. And then finally, when it crossed the zero line, it showed support. But that took 7 years. And it looks like it's kind of doing the same thing. You're only losing negative 0.24% a month. That's only about 4 or 5% a year. But look what also took 7 years. 7 comes up again. I looked at the number one builder, D.R. Horton. I looked at their quarterly earnings that they just released because they're publicly traded. You can read these online. And I saw something here. D.R. Horton sells about 80,000 homes a year. The lots that they control, if you look up here where I have my red cursor, currently, right now, D.R. Horton, controlled through land and lot purchase contracts, owns 590,500 pieces of parcel to put houses on. And if you take 80,000 homes a year and divide it by 590, you know what you get? 7 years. Things that make you go, I just aged myself by saying that. But isn't that funny that it took 7 years for us to stabilize, and it's going to take 7 years for D.R. Horton to sell all the homes of the land they bought. So, and Lennar, same thing, and Pulte, same thing, not as many. This is the nation's number one builder. They have the number one amount of lots to keep that run going. But I thought that was very interesting when I saw that. The statistics, very easy. Housings for sale, 11,000 going to 12, but only up less than 1%. Our solds went up. Our pending skyrocketed to 43%. But I found this interesting. Look how many pending sales we had last month. Pendings equal closings. This is only 61% of these pending sales actually went to the closing table. If we go 2,074 times 61%, that's about 1,200. And if I cruise up to my supply graph, where I say, where should we be? Well, guess what this line is right here. If it doesn't break this little line, that's 1,200. I thought that was interesting. Hey, math predicting things. Average time on market went down a little bit. That's still way above 90. If it's over 60, that's bad. Asking price went down 2%. The median selling price went down 3%, which it needs to go down probably about 90 grand more. But this is a good way of kind of predicting what's going to happen for March, because March has historically, I'm flipping through graphs here, but March historically been the peak of our demand. Will it be the peak of our demand? Well, according to those pending sales, it's going to be, but it's still not going to break my downward channel, which means that God help us what the lows are going to be if it actually doesn't do that. All right, sorry to keep flipping around like that. So you see where I get all of my stats from. U.S. Census Bureau was a big one for this one. Federal Reserve Economic Data, Realtor.com. The Reventure app came up with that cool little buyer index graph that combined 4 or 5 different elements into a buyer graph. But guys, if you have any questions, my name is Ed Zoller. I'm here to help you guys. If you're a buyer and seller and you're anywhere in this country or the United States, I can help you. I can help consult with you. I want to help all of you guys. I want you dropping comments in there. Hey, what about this? What about that? I want you to be able to like and subscribe my videos. My videos are very catered towards one person, but they are catered to all of you who are thinking of buying and selling, because now that the national stats have caught up to Florida, Texas, and Vegas, you're going to see this throughout the chain. You're going to see this throughout the United States. Some people are asking me already, do you know somebody? Geez, Ed, you're great. Do you know anyone up in Idaho? Do you know anybody up in South Carolina? Yes, I do. I find like-minded people all the time, like myself, because that only helps educate me better, but I can still consult with you even if your deal is outside the state, or if you're a seller wanting to make your house special. I got a couple of my partner agents up in Long Island, up in Queens, up in Jersey. I got one in Kentucky, and I found the right person, and we are putting this together as a plan so that these sellers can get out of this market and get collect as much of that fake COVID equity they already can get, or buyers getting those great deals. I hope to talk to you guys all soon. Thanks.